Hunting game. I was sitting in my office with Lara and Ellie. I looked at the clock. We had to go to the club in half an hour. Ellie, she had been living with me for several years. I met her when she was running away from a group of human traffickers. She took refuge in me and asked for help. Because of her, I and my people got into a fight with them. So for a while we killed them all. 3 of my people were also injured. 10 years had passed since then, and she was now 20 years old. She no longer had the innocence of a girl. Her hands were stained with blood. She was cold and nervous. However, we had a good relationship, and she didn't resist my words much. I also got along with her in many moments. The wild world had brought us to this coldness and ferocity. One of the things he was very fond of, and I always liked to stand in a quiet corner and watch her for a long time, was when she would start playing the guitar I had given here as a gift, so that whenever she got angry and resentful, she could calm herself down by playing it. Derek entered the office and said, "Boss, I brought you a gift. The game that Emil couldn't hunt that night." I said, "I'm eager to see it." He pointed to his people, and they brought Joel and Tess. I started clapping and said, "Very good. I like it. Joel, Tess, eager to meet." I said to Eli, "Are you going to warm them up?" When he paused, Lara said, "Let me do it." Eli nodded. They sat them on a metal chair and tied their hands to it from behind. Suddenly, she slapped them in the face for the first time. Her voice was so loud that I jumped for a moment. She slapped them hard on both sides of their faces. Blood flowed from their noses. The marks of her hands on their reddened skin were clearly visible. I said quietly, "I'm glad I'm not in their place." Eli looked at me. She continued to do this for a while. Tess, tears were flowing from her eyes and she was overcome by the pain of crying, "Joel." With all that stubborn pride, in front of Lara's slaps, his eyes were filled with tears. I said, "That's enough, now cool them down." They were taken to another room. Their legs were tied with ropes and they were lifted up with a machine and held above a glass container filled with water. By pressing a button, they were submerged up to their waists. They tried to hold their breath, but after a while they started to struggle. They took them out, opened their mouths like fish, and swallowed all the air they could. They dipped them in the water again, and this time held them for a longer time. Their ropes and bodies began to shake violently. Their movements gradually slowed down. I looked into their wide-open eyes and indicated that it was enough. I said, "Dry them now." They fell to their deaths with shock. Their screams filled the hall. Then, with their hands and feet tied behind them, they were suspended in the air. I went forward. The whole ground and their bodies were wet with water. I grabbed both of their chins with my hand and lifted them up to their faces and said, "When you were stealing my cargo, did you think about this time too? I have to torture you like a meal and then shoot you so that the others will not dare to do this again. Why did you steal my cargo?" At this time, Eli came towards us, holding a hunting knife in one hand and a hammer in the other. Eli said, "Let me help them." I knew that if I let her, I would have to witness painful scenes. I said, "No hammer. If they don't talk, do whatever you want with the knife." Tess barely held her head up and said, "We didn't want to steal your cargo. We took back the cargo that Natty had stolen from us. He had sold our weapons to the flak. We wanted to take revenge on him. Later we found out that the cargo belonged to you." I turned to Eli and said, "Do you think she's telling the truth? Should I believe her?" Eli held the blade of the knife in her hand and then stared at their faces. She said, "The flaks aren't here, but you can bring Natty and ask him," I said to Derek. "Wherever he is, even under a rock, find him and bring him here. I don't have much time to waste. I have to go to the club." "Sure, let's go." I went back to the office with Eli.